Hardy Boys Clue Book 1, The Video Game Bandit, Chapter 7. Too many cooks. As Joe and Frank made their way back to the house, they noticed the party was quieter than before. A lot of guests had left. Phil had abandoned the stereo, putting on music that sounded like what you'd hear in an elevator. Mrs. Freeman seemed pretty sure that the people who helped set up the party didn't have anything to do with it, Joe said. If they've worked at other parties at Ellie's house, it doesn't make sense that they'd suddenly walk in and take the Z Cross. What would be the point of that? It's our only lead right now, Frank said. We have to follow it. The dad had taught them about leads, which were clues that pointed the investigation in a certain direction. The one leading them to the people who work for Forks and Knives. There was a reason Mr. Freeman had mentioned them, and they had to explore it. As they walked into the kitchen, they tried to stay hopeful. Maybe Mr. Freeman was right. Maybe the workers did know something about the missing Z-Cross. A man with a white bandana around his head was washing dishes. A few others brought trays in from outside. Frank, Joe, and the rest of the bandits had met all the workers at the beginning of the party. For most of the event, the bandits had been going inside and picking up appetizers and passing them out to all the guests. A blonde woman was arranging a plate of giant brownies. She looked up when Frank and Joe walked in. "Can I help you?" she asked. "We're hoping to talk to you about the missing video game system, the Z-Cross everyone's been looking for." The woman sprinkled some powdered sugar on the brownies. "Wish I knew more, but I didn't see anything. What about you, Larry?" The man with the bandana shrugged. "Nothing." Joe pulled out his notebook, hoping a few questions might help them remember something. "Did you notice anyone in the den from the kitchen? Or maybe they came out of the den. We think whoever took it would have left this way. Otherwise, they would have gone through the backyard." The woman had a white jacket that said Heather on the front in curly script. She pulled out a lemon custard pie from the fridge. "I didn't, but I was busy prepping dessert." Just then, a teenage girl came in. She looked like she went to Bayport High School. She had her hair in a ponytail and was wearing a shirt that said Forks and Knives. She pulled a pile of dirty dishes into the sink and turned to go. "Excuse us," Joe called out. "Did you see anything strange this afternoon? We're trying to figure out who took the Z-Cross from the den. We still haven't been able to find it." The girl threw her hands up. "I just told Christina, but she didn't think it meant anything." She laughed. Heather and the man with the bandana both turned suddenly interested. "What do you mean?" Joe asked. "I saw two kids right before the auction. They came out of the den. They both had something under their shirts. They were practically running out the front door." The girl put her hands on her hips. Joe started writing down everything she said. "What did they look like?" She shook her head. "I didn't get a very good look. That's the problem. They were moving too fast. But the one kid, whatever he was holding under his shirt, it looked like it was alive." "What?" Frank said loudly. "What do you mean?" "It was like squirming," the girl said. "A boy with a squirming stomach. This is starting to sound like an alien movie." Joe laughed. He wrote it all down anyways. "I think the other kid had the game. It was like cords and stuff coming out from under his shirt. It wasn't in a box anymore." The girl shrugged. "I don't know what else to tell you." A boy with glasses and braces came in with another tray of dirty dishes. He set them down on the counter. It was obvious that he had been listening to their conversations. "I saw those kids too," he cried. Frank noticed that his name tag said Kevin. "You're right, Alana. I was taking some dishes out to the van and saw them come out too. I heard them talking about some game, and now I realize they were probably talking about the Z-Cross. I didn't even realize they might be the ones who took it." "This has been a huge help, really," Frank said. "Do you remember what they were wearing?" Alana pulled a stool away from the counter and plopped down. I think one had a gray t-shirt. The other was wearing maybe a blue one. They both had on jeans. Kevin shook his head. No, you've got it all wrong. They were wearing sweatshirts. I'm sure of it." Alana and Kevin started arguing. Joe wasn't quite sure what to write down, so he wrote down blue t-shirt and gray t-shirt or two sweatshirts under the description of the suspects. This happened a lot. Most of the time, witnesses couldn't remember what the suspects looked like, or they remembered things differently. What about their hair color or eye color? Frank said. Alana let out a sigh. I think they both had brown hair. Kevin shook his head. One was blonde. Don't you remember? Frank glanced sideways at his brother. It was clear they weren't going to get Alana and Kevin to agree on anything. If you remember anything else, just let us know. We're going to look around the den one last time to see if we've missed anything. As they left, Alana and Kevin were still arguing. Maybe he had red hair, Alana whispered, more confused than ever. I just don't know anymore. Joe and Frank shut the door to the den behind them. So 2 boys took the Z cross, Joe said. That makes sense. Now we just have to figure out which 2 boys. Do you think we should go through the photo booth pictures again? They didn't give us a good description, Frank said, pacing the room. Maybe there's more here. There has to be something we missed. The boys started searching the room again, this time checking the cabinet beneath the television set and the small table by the couch. Sometimes when they returned to the scene of a mystery, they found smaller clues they had missed the first time. Frank knelt down and looked under the couch while Joe examined the crumpled Z-Cross pamphlet again. Why would someone tear it apart? Joe asked. Frank was leaning over the back of the couch, reaching for something. Why would they tear the entire box apart? He asked. Joe thought it was a strange question until he realized what Frank had found. There, behind the couch, was the entire box, and one whole side of it was shredded. Joe stepped closer to get a better look, but it was empty. It's like someone ripped it. Do you think they were trying to get it out of the box in a hurry? Frank opened the end, which was kind of slimy. Ew, it's wet. Gross. He and Joe stood there studying the shredded box. Maybe they were trying to avoid being seen. The game box is smaller than the giant cardboard thing, Joe said. Maybe they were hoping no one would notice them leaving. Still, Frank said, they didn't have to rip the box apart. This is so strange. It makes no sense. Joe looked out the window at the party. Whoever did this has been here as a guest. But why would they leave evidence behind? And what was the second boy holding? The one with the squirming stomach. For the first time ever, the Hardy Boys were seriously stumped. Chapter 8 is Forgotten Evidence.